Before Wii Sports ruled living rooms, and long before tennis games became full-blown simulations, there was a series from Namco that turned rainy day afternoons into tournaments of laughter and bragging rights. A series that quietly evolved over 2 decades. It started as a couch game with cute, cartoony characters, but by the 2000s, you could lob a ball past Rafael Nadal on your PSP during the bus ride to school. In this video, we're rewinding all the way to the beginning. With Family Tennis on the Famicom, we'll explore the bizarre twist of World Court Tennis, the charming creativity of Smash Tennis on the Super Nintendo, and the polygon revolution on the PlayStation, as well as the Pro Circuit shift on PS2 and Xbox 360. Along the way, we'll look at what made each game stand out, the mechanics, the innovation, the charm, and ask the question, why did one of gaming's longest running tennis franchises vanish without a trace?
This moment is the culmination of all your hard work, skill, and perseverance. Make your dreams a reality.
Whether you grew up battling friends on pixel courts or you're just discovering the series for the first time, this is the full rally, the rise and fall of Namco's Smash Court Tennis. It all begins here in 1987 with the unassuming charm of Family Tennis. At first glance, it's a simple 8-bit game, but dig deeper and you find a foundation stronger than most early sports titles. Family Tennis wasn't just functional, it was fun, with snappy mechanics and momentum-driven gameplay that rewarded timing, not just button mashing. Mechanically, it felt closer to an arcade game than the stiffer tennis sims of the NES era. You had 2 buttons, a light and hard option, offering arcade accessibility, but also surprising depth to its gameplay. Rallying felt smooth, shots could angle wide or drop short. Characters, while cartoony, had different strengths, a rare touch for the time. Each court also had different characteristics in response to ball control, and you can even play in space. Yes, that's right, before Jason X, before Leprechaun went galactic, Namco launched their chibi tennis crew into orbit. Where most franchises go to die, Family Tennis thrived. Welcome to Family Tennis in Space. Coming soon to a video store or retailer near you. Gameplay options were fairly slim. You had exhibition, tournament, and world tour modes. But what really stood out was its tone. It felt playful and unique. Even the menus had bounce. While games like tennis on NES were dry and practical, Family Tennis oozed personality, a quality that would define the entire Smash Court lineage. Even though Family Tennis didn't support 4-player co-op, it was still a fun and exciting tennis game that did offer 8-player tournaments, becoming a staple for competitive families across Japan. Part of Namco's Family series, this wasn't just Namco cashing in on sports. It was the opening serve of a series that was always trying to do a little more than expected. Then, Namco did something no one saw coming. They turned tennis into an RPG. World Court Tennis on the PC Engine was bold, weird, and completely delightful. A traditional tennis game sat side by side with a full-blown JRPG mode, complete with world maps, towns, random battles, and upgrades. This was a home console port of Namco's arcade game Pro Tennis World Court, which itself was inspired by Family Tennis. It would arrive in 1988 for the PC Engine with the added RPG quest mode. Visually, it was a definite upgrade from Family Tennis. Sprites were more detailed and vibrant, and while animation was still fairly basic, it created a smoother experience. But it also now supported 4 players and would become an instant multiplayer classic. Mechanically, the tennis remained snappy and tight, a refined version of the Family Tennis engine, but the innovation here was unmatched. In an era when sports games were one-mode affairs, Namco imagined something way more ambitious. Progression, exploration, and context. It didn't just give you a tennis match, it gave you a tennis journey. It was a genre mashup ahead of its time, the kind of captivating experimentation that would inspire Golf Story decades later. By the 16-bit era, Namco had perfected their formula. Directed by Hideo Yoshizawa of Klonoa and Mr. Driller fame, Smash Tennis, Super Family Tennis in Japan was an audio and visual treat. Gorgeous, wacky graphics, superbly amusing sprites, and all the fun you can handle. It refined the already tight controls of previous entries, creating arcade-style accessibility but also added depth thanks to the extra buttons on the Super Nintendo controller, diverse character roster, and deep, time-based ball mechanics. But most of all, it was bursting with charm. The courts were vibrant and themed, beach sands, dangerous mountain tops, and forest shrines, and included clever hidden Easter egg challenges on certain courts. The characters reacted to misses with over-the-top animations. 15-30. Every pixel and rally felt alive. Gameplay options look a little slim, but if you press select 5 times and then start on the main menu, it unlocked an interesting Namco theatre mode, which was essentially a story mode. It was this sort of creativity, coupled with unique ideas like showing the match point of rival tournament games after your match, that helped Smash Tennis stand out. It stood shoulder to shoulder with Super Tennis. Where Super Tennis on SNES leaned into realism and simulation, Smash Tennis was fun first, the kind of game you played for hours with friends during the summer holidays. You'll need a multi-tap to get the most from it, but even as a single-player game, this has a timeless quality that's totally irresistible. It was a couch multiplayer legend, and one that bizarrely never got an American release. Smash Court was mechanically polished, artistically expressive, and packed with replay value. This was Namco firing on all cylinders, and it showed. My personal favourite out of the series, and arguably the best tennis game of the 16-bit generation. Stonking tennis simulation, and the only real alternative to Super Tennis. Possibly even better. But as gaming leapt into 3D, so did Smash Court. The move to PlayStation marked a shift, trading sprites and simplicity for polygons, depth, and a more ambitious future, and Namco was about to serve something entirely new. 3D changed everything, and Namco didn't miss the transition. The transition from the SNES to PS1 was more than just a technological leap for the Smash Tennis series, as the PlayStation burst onto the scene in the mid-90s, ushering in the era of 3D graphics and CD-ROM capabilities. Namco seized the opportunity to redefine its tennis franchise. The 3 Smash Court titles released on the PlayStation stand as a fascinating trilogy, charting the series' ambitious journey into the Polygon era, refining its gameplay and carving a distinct identity in a rising genre. The original Smash Court, released in late 1996 in Japan, was Namco's bold declaration of intent. Stepping onto the court for the first time felt fresh. Gone were the charming flat sprites. In their place, rudimentary yet captivating 3D models that moved with an almost balletic grace. Graphically, it was a product of its time. Jagged edges, low-resolution textures, and character models that were more caricatures than realistic depictions. Yet there was a certain charm to its blocky aesthetic. Namco's arcade styling shines through here, and for a tennis video game, it oozes coolness, backed up by its ultra-chill soundtrack. Gameplay-wise, Smash Court struck a delicate balance between arcade accessibility and a surprising depth of simulation. Unlike the frenetic, almost fighting game-like button mashing of some contemporaries, Smash Court champions a more nuanced shot system. This time, players have a super shot to go with the already established weak, strong, and lob shots, allowing for much more strategic play. Super shots needed precise timing, as they required a longer swing, and the movement system, while stiff by today's standards, encouraged anticipation and court positioning. The game featured a modest roster of fictional players, again each with distinct attributes, and offered a greater variety in the available courts. But Namco didn't stop there. The single-player modes were fairly fleshed out, focusing primarily on exhibition matches and tournaments, but also offering collectibles to win in the tennis club and a build-a-court option. However, the real joy, as was often the case with PS1 sports titles, lay in the competitive 2 and 4 player experience, where tactical rallies could unfold with satisfying glee and intensity. While other PS1 tennis games like Sampras Extreme, Tennis Arena, and the Tonkin House developed V-Tennis offered a fuller 3D tennis experience, Smash Court's arcade-like presentation and intuitive controls contributed to its overall appeal. It wasn't aiming for hyper-realism, but rather pure, simple fun. It laid down a solid foundation, hinting at the potential lurking beneath its somewhat primitive visuals. Smash Court 2 released in Japan in late 1997, Namco went for an urban street feel to freshen up the series. This sequel visibly smoothed out many of its predecessors' rough edges. The character models boasted a higher polygon count, resulting in rounder, more expressive athletes. Animations were fluid and more natural. Namco refined the shot mechanics, making the interplay between shots feel more impactful. The ball physics were noticeably improved, leading to more realistic bounces and trajectories that rewarded strategic placement over raw power. The gameplay felt a little more accessible and forgiving this time, except for the strict serving window. You also had a new practice mode where you could learn the various shot types and techniques. But beneath the urban anime aesthetic, Namco quietly added an odd experiment: Smash Roulette. Smash Roulette is the core of what makes this sequel feel different. It plays like a tennis game combined with a board game. You serve to spin a roulette wheel, time your hit to move a certain number of spaces, then explore a small map that acts like a tour of rival territories. Landing on an opponent allows you to gamble your way past them, pay or play for higher stakes. And along the way you're managing money, health and equipment. This mode transforms a match-by-match sport into a small campaign loop, with upgrades and the kind of low-stakes, risk-reward decisions you'd expect in a handheld RPG. The PAL release in 1998 swapped the cool and hip anime cover of Japan to something more appropriate for the European audience. It was a classic late 90s rebrand, Anna Kournikova's Smash Court Tennis. Fitting in with Sony's young adult and club culture demographic and marketing, you now had lad mag favourite and tennis pin-up Anna Kournikova as the face of the franchise, making it easier to sell in a high street full of FIFA and Tekken. This release sadly would not feature Smash Roulette, but it added a fun 2 and 4 player Smash Blast mode where you play with an explosive ball. While still lacking in real-world licensed players, the increased depth of its fictional roster, coupled with expanded game modes, collectibles, and excellent multiplayer, cemented Smash Court 2's position as a significantly more robust offering. There are loads of courts to play on, and so much hidden stuff to find that you'll battle away like we did until it's all out in the open. It showed Namco truly finding its stride in the tennis space, building on the ambition of the first game with thoughtful refinements and a keener understanding of what made a compelling tennis simulation. The final PlayStation installment, Smash Court 3, released in Japan only in late 1999. It represents the peak of the series on the original PlayStation hardware. Building directly on the advancements of its predecessor, Smash Court 3 pushed the series to its limits, delivering the most polished and complete vision of Namco's tennis on the console. Graphically, it boasted the cleanest visuals. The presentation was slick and vibrant, with court environments that felt more alive with subtle details. The core mechanics were largely the same, but they felt tighter, more responsive, and incredibly balanced. While still maintaining its arcade and multiplayer roots, Smash Court 3 offered a level of engagement for single players, demonstrating how far Namco had come from its rudimentary beginnings. Smash Roulette was gone, but beyond exhibition and free training, you now had mission and minigame modes. Minigame had 3 options: squash shooting, hamburger, and bomb. Bomb is Smash Blast from Anna Kournikova's Smash Court Tennis. Game. Squash shooting is a mashup of Squash and Space Invaders. and Hamburger plays like burger time mixed with tennis. Create the perfect burger while thrashing your opponent. These offered a fun distraction, but mission mode was the star this time. Imagine a long-lost tennis game show where the contestants completed various tennis-related tasks.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
It's utterly bonkers, totally Japanese, and completely Namco. The PlayStation Smash Court trilogy was pivotal in the series' evolution. Namco's approach remained distinct. While accessible, these games always retained an underlying layer of simulation that rewarded patience and tactical thinking over pure reflexes. In the competitive tennis game landscape of the late 90s, the Smash Court series carved out its niche admirably. But by now, the series was up against Virtua Tennis on Dreamcast, which was flashier, faster, and more accessible. The Smash Court games were thoughtful and technical, but lacked the graphical presentation needed to really stand out. While not featuring licensed professional players, its emphasis on well-designed fictional athletes imbues the game with its own charm and competitive spirit. It arrived before the explosion of the arcade tennis craze, epitomised by Sega's Virtua Tennis. Yet it already hinted at the accessible, fast-paced fun. Still, Smash Court's PlayStation trilogy distinguished itself with its unique visual flair, Namco's signature polish, and its refined, nuanced gameplay.
Ready, steady, smash!
The turn of the millennium heralded a new era for gaming, and with it a significant evolution of the Smash Court series, as the PlayStation 2 ascended, promising unprecedented graphical fidelity and deeper gameplay experiences. Namco's tennis franchise found itself at a crossroads. The shift was palpable. From the more immediate, accessible fun of its PS1 predecessors, the series embarked on a journey towards a more serious, simulation-oriented approach, culminating in the Pro Tournament sub-series. This marked a profound maturation, not just for Smash Court, but for the tennis genre as a whole, setting an ambitious course for its final defining chapters.
Smash Court Tennis Pro Tournament.
A new console, a new identity, but was it too safe? Smash Court Pro Tournament arrived on the scene in 2001, not just as a sequel, but as a statement of intent. Gone were the more cartoonish leanings and exaggerated characters of the previous games. In their place, Namco pursued a more grounded, realistic portrayal of professional tennis. This was immediately evident in its visual presentation. Leveraging the nascent power of the PlayStation 2, the game boasted significantly more detailed character models, motion captured animation, and courts that were now fully realised in 3D, complete with intricate textures and subtle shadows. The leap from the polygonal simplicity of the PS1 to the PS2's more organic, fluid representations was striking, making the players feel less like puppets and more like digital athletes. Gameplay-wise, Smash Court Pro Tournament truly began to define its identity within the burgeoning tennis simulation space, while still retaining an element of the accessible fun that characterised earlier Smash Court games. As is tradition, Smash Court Tennis is at its best when a multi-tap and 3 other players come into the equation. It introduced a greater emphasis on strategic depth. Shot placement became paramount, demanding precise timing and an understanding of court angles. Players were given a robust array of shots: topspin, slice, drop shot and lob, each with distinct trajectory and impact, allowing for a more nuanced tactical game. The power smash, while a familiar mechanic, felt more integrated into the rhythm of play, encouraging thoughtful charging rather than mindless flailing. It played smooth, deliberate tennis, a more intelligent alternative to Virtua Tennis's arcade speed.
Kournikova, English.
The Pro Tournament mode served as the game's core single-player experience, offering a career progression system where players could choose from a roster of licensed pros, like Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras and Martina Hingis, guiding them through a series of tournaments and rising through the ranks.
Here you will work your way up the ranks to compete against top tennis professionals.
This mode grounded the game in authenticity, appealing to fans who craved a more accurate virtual recreation of the sport. This was all a dramatic departure from the series' roots stylistically. The once colourful aesthetic has now been replaced with a more muted, lifelike palette. For an arcadey kind of game, the colours are very bland, slightly washed out and not particularly vibrant, a move that may have alienated many hardcore fans of the franchise up to this point. At a time when Virtua Tennis 2 was dominating the perception of fast-paced arcade tennis,
Virtua Tennis 2.
Smash Court Pro Tournament carved out a niche as a more measured yet equally engaging alternative. Virtua Tennis was perfect. Smash Court is a nearly perfect copy of what made it so good. It's a damn good tennis game, that's all you need to know. It wasn't as flashy perhaps, but it offered a robust framework for what was to come. Three years later, in 2004, Smash Court Pro Tournament 2 arrived, building upon the solid foundation laid by the first game, and for many, cementing itself as the pinnacle of the series on the PlayStation 2. This sequel wasn't about radical reinvention, but meticulous refinement. Every aspect of the game felt tighter, more polished, and deeper. Graphically, the improvements were incremental, yet noticeable. Character models gained even more fidelity, animations were smoother and more realistic. The core gameplay, however, was where Pro Tournament 2 truly shines. It expanded upon the strategic depth of the first game, introducing a more sophisticated AI that adapted to your playstyle, demanding greater tactical flexibility. The stamina system became more pronounced, forcing players to manage their energy throughout grueling matches, adding another layer of realism and strategic weight. The Pro Tour career mode was significantly expanded, offering more events, customization options for created characters, and a more robust player development system. It was here that the game truly excelled in capturing the gradual progression and challenges of a professional tennis career. The timing window for perfect shots felt finely tuned, rewarding precision and anticipation. Truly a tennis game for tennis lovers. Its rich offline content and incredibly satisfying gameplay loop ensured its longevity. While Topspin beat it to the punch with online play, it did feature in the Japanese release of Pro Tournament 2. Smash Court Pro Tournament 2 found itself competing directly with the emerging powerhouse that was Topspin on Xbox, a game that leaned even further into simulation. Yet Pro Tournament 2 managed to carve out its own identity, striking an artful balance between the approachable arcade nature of Virtua Tennis and the hardcore simulation of Topspin. It offered a challenging yet rewarding experience, accessible enough for newcomers but deep enough to captivate seasoned tennis fans, truly feeling like the greatest hits of the Smash Court ethos on the PS2. The final serve and a fumbled match point.
Smash Court Tennis 3!
The year 2008 marked a key moment for the Smash Court series. As it jumped to a new generation of hardware, Smash Court Tennis 3 was released for Microsoft's Xbox 360 in August 2008. But it was actually a port of Smash Court Tennis 3, which came out a year earlier on PSP. Unfortunately, this was no more than the same game on Sony's PlayStation Portable, just with a higher resolution. It feels like a step backward from the excellent Pro Tournament 2, both technically and mechanically. Gameplay on the Xbox 360 aimed for a mix of accessible depth and the series' signature strategic style, but something just feels off.
Love 40.
There was a noticeable change in its overall pacing compared to the PS2 games. Some might say it felt slightly less fluid, trading responsiveness for increased realism in ball physics and control. After years of improvement, Namco decided to alter how the game plays, offering a control scheme similar to Topspin 3, but more user-friendly. Players now hold and release the button instead of timing the stroke to hit the ball. It's a novel approach, but one that isn't very well executed and completely changes the game's dynamic. What was once a fast, arcade-like, sim-light experience now feels slow and tedious, lacking both tactical depth and fun. Worse, it launched into a marketplace already owned by Virtua Tennis 3 and Topspin 3, both offering deeper mechanics, sharper visuals, and better online play. It struggled to carve out the same distinct identity that its PS2 predecessors had enjoyed. It was a good enough tennis game, but perhaps not the groundbreaking statement its generational leap implied.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth match of the tournament is about to begin. Here are the players.
Ultimately, Smash Court Pro Tournament 3 would be the final entry in Namco's long-running tennis series. It represented the culmination of the Pro Tournament era's pursuit of realism and strategic depth. The series consistently pushed for authenticity and player engagement, but something was missing. Personality.
Reset to 0.
It no longer felt like a Namco game. No wacky game show, no board game street hustling, no hamburger making tomfoolery. It was good, even great at times, but it was no longer memorable. It had lost its voice. It wasn't just that the Smash Court series felt outdated, it felt invisible. And just like that, with no fanfare, the series ended. So, why did it fall? Let's serve up the key reasons. Genre limitations. Tennis games are a niche market. Even the best-selling tennis titles are modest hits. It's a tough genre to thrive in. Identity crisis. The series never settled on what it wanted to be. Quirky and fun, or serious and realistic. This wavering diluted its brand over time. Stronger rivals. Sega and 2K brought the big guns. Virtua Tennis was fun. Topspin had realism and interesting mechanics. Namco's tennis offering, while mechanically solid, couldn't match their presentation or marketing. Shifting priorities. Namco focused elsewhere. Tekken, Soul Calibur, Tales of, and anime titles were simply more profitable. But maybe the biggest reason? It stopped evolving. The series that once mixed RPGs and fun just faded into vanilla realism. It didn't double fault, it didn't break under pressure, it just quietly left the court. Here's the thing about games like this, they never truly die. Today, nostalgia has power. We've seen Windjammers get a sequel after decades of silence with Windjammers 2. And even Super Mega Baseball bring back arcade sports energy. With Topspin getting a new game in 2024 with Topspin 2K25, the ingredients are all here for a reboot. The colourful personality of Smash Tennis, the wild RPG depth of World Court, and the technical gameplay of Pro Tournament 2. Imagine a new Smash Court game with an in-depth story mode, online play, and modern retro-inspired aesthetics and soundtrack. It could hit the sweet spot between memory and mastery. Smash Court Tennis was never the loudest game on the court, but it was always the most quietly confident. Looking back, the Smash Court series wasn't just a collection of sports games, it was a time capsule, charting the evolution of game design, player expectations, and the industry's shifting focus. It began with joy in the form of pick-up-and-play simplicity with depth and personality, standing out in a crowded market thanks to its realistic mechanics and Namco eccentricity. But as the series aged, it seemed to lose its voice. By the time it reached the Xbox 360, Smash Court Tennis had traded charm for conformity. The spirit was still there, the gameplay was still fairly solid, but it was now hidden behind safe, muted presentation and a lack of identity. In trying to compete with the likes of Topspin and Virtua Tennis, it stopped feeling uniquely Namco. In the end, it wasn't a bad game that killed the franchise, it was silence. A quiet fading away as Namco focused on bigger IPs and louder markets. Smash Court didn't miss its next shot, it just never got the chance to take it. But in a gaming landscape increasingly fueled by nostalgia and reboots, maybe, just maybe, it deserves another chance to serve. Thanks for watching. If you played any of these games or remember renting them, drop your memories and favourites in the comment section. And if you have the time, please consider subscribing and liking the video if you enjoyed it. It really goes a long way in helping small creators. And tell me, which forgotten sports series would you like to see make a comeback? And if you love Namco's Ridge Racer series, then check out this video on its spin-off game Critical Velocity for the PlayStation 2. Till next time, Crypt Dwellers.